Howdy folks, it is Monday, November 21st, though it isn't, right? The episode, well, for their listeners, it is Monday, November 21st,
I think so. I'm trusting
2011. For Toonces and myself, we're back in time. It's actually Saturday, the 19th.
Maybe
but we won't tell.
I looked at a calendar in days.
Yeah, so it's all a drunken haze. But yes, this is episode 20B of the Bad Dog Book Club. And we're discussing Scandal Waiting to Happens.
Select load size large.
Yes, very good. Great title. And this is one that you picked out, so I'm kind of going to let you start the discussion off here today.
Just explain how I picked this one. This guy, I saw him watching me on FA a short while ago, and so just because I was bored and saw his page and whatever, and he was commenting, and I saw one day he just happened to post a story, so read that, and it was pretty good, and he only had, I believe, one other story in his gallery from before, and I thought, this is pretty good. We should encourage this guy to maybe try something else, so let's put him up on the show, and we can dedicate a show to maybe simple mistakes that new beginners make that might be, easily overcome if we just politely pointed out to them. And I don't mean to be rude, and really, it's a great story either way. Just I feel like little things that maybe are overlooked, and I mean, you may even disagree anyhow.
No, I think that's a good idea. One of the things obviously we're trying to do with the book club is, we talked. I mean, this was the last episode, where we're trying to sell books. But I think that is one of the other main goals of the book club is, we're trying to sell books for people who maybe are already, in print and more established, but we're also wanting to, shout out when we find somebody who isn't in print yet and say, hey, go look at this person's stuff because it's good. So no, I approve. Sure. I approve. See, I need to be better about it. I was thinking, I confess, I didn't comment on anything this week. I'm sorry.
We did,
but I'm thinking about it, and so I want to, pay a little more attention to when I read something on, Silver or whatever, like, oh, that's good, and I want to come back to this person or comment on them or ask them if we can use one of their stories. So I'm putting myself more in that framework here.
That's good. Cool.
And you don't have to wait for us, of course. You can always send us stuff. Absolutely. But yeah, so I think, the story went over pretty well. At least in Twitter land. We got some good comments.
Well, that's good, because it left me pretty much breathless while I was reading.
We got our
this might be part of the run-on sentences.
We got our first I came comment.
Oh, no, we did not. No.
We did. Now, okay. Now, I know, and you see this in artists, when you're reading somebody's FA page or whatever. And they'll be, they'll post like, hot dog fucking or whatever. Yeah, and you go down the page and there's somebody like, I came.
But then the artists get,
some of the artists are like, why did you say that? And it's like, well,
why did you
did paint dogs fucking. I mean, you did paint, right, exactly. So I kind of feel like when we're dealing with porn, or I'm sorry, pulp, since you picked it out. So it's, when we're dealing with pulp, that is a valid response, and that's a pretty good. I mean, what are you trying to convey with your porn? Well, you're trying to convey somebody gets aroused, so I think that's a pretty good compliment.
First of all, what that means is mission accomplished.
Exactly. And that's the first story, right? The banner on the aircraft carrier, there. I came.
But just to address the comment itself specifically.
Yes.
It can come in varying degrees of eloquence.
Yes.
Where some of them just have to make you laugh. And I mean, okay, I'm an enlightened individual. Like, I'm obviously not scandalized by the fact that somebody would have found utility in something I've published on the internet. But
that's a good euphemism, folks. Somebody found utility.
Yeah. But
found out utility all over somebody's face the other day. But go on, go on.
Yeah, but I mean, it's you still can't help but laugh when someone is just so blunt about it.
Yes, But that's kind of why I like the straightforward, simple I came, because it's there's some jouissance there. It's playful.
The plus come button on So Furry. Were you a fan of that?
Yeah.
I was a fan of that, I'll admit.
Yeah. Now, see, that's one I don't use either.
You don't use either? You don't use
I don't use the...
I don't use it either.
I came button on So Furry.
As a writer, I don't mind it.
I should, and that's usually what I pot. I mean, I save a lot of art, but I usually don't, pot art.
It's better than getting no response.
I pot of stories. So...
I usually
better than no... See, he said better than no response at all. So there you go. You have it here.
Nope.
All right. Well, yeah.
An emphatic endorsement, right?
Let's take us on. Why'd you pick this one?
Oh, okay. I'm going to be blunt. I also picked this one because
this person was stalking you, but that's okay.
It wasn't stalking.
Oh, I know.
Whatever.
I'm kidding. Scandal waiting. You're also stalking me, so no, I'm kidding.
But this is blatantly self-indulgent because also I've been getting kind of into the kinks in the story too. Just the girly boy thing for some reason. Because I've always liked bears and I've always liked masculine men. I mean,
what underwear are you wearing right now?
Oh please.
I want to know what underwear are you wearing right now? Because I can't see any sign of anything, so it's either pretty low and skimpy or none at all. I want to know.
Oh my goodness!
You can just tell the audience.
Is there a number I can dial right now?
The people with the pay feed can see it, but you can tell the rest of the folks.
202-333.
You can tell the rest of the folks.
No, it's H&M. They're H&M briefs. Okay. I had to dig back to my memory. 2 hours ago.
Pretty skimpy. Yeah. Anyway, yes, you're getting into that. Okay.
No, but
those of you watching in 1080p, you enjoy this.
So I'm going to be honest. It just appealed to my prurient interests. Is that so bad?
Your prurient interest?
No. Aren't I supposed to be one putting forward the really stupid
I'm feeling punchy today. Puns? Yeah, I'm feeling like I'm letting you lead the discussion, and I'm being the ass here. So we're doing a little roller. It's opposite day.
Do you prefer that? Do you prefer doing it from that side? Really? Being the punchy bottom, basically.
There you go. No.
You don't like being the punchy bottom? No. Because you asked me. If
I'm gonna bottom, I might as well be punchy, right? Right?
Yeah, I know. Well, I was gonna say, you asked me when you came here, like, okay, so which role did you identify with? I was like, what do you mean? What kind of questions?
I think it's a good question.
I identify with a big masculine dude. No, I mean, come on, I'm like
that's
5'7".
I'm 5'7".
I don't know. I don't.
Dude, it's all in the attitude.
I guess
it's all in the attitude. I'm 5'7" and 117 pounds. I identified with a lion.
I don't know. That's always the same excuse I use with other people, though, because it doesn't work with you because you're just as puny as I am.
Yeah.
No, but I know I identified.
So you identified with the
squirrel.
No.
Hey, I mean, squirrels are cute.
Squirrels are cute. I
mean, I think they're underutilized too.
Well, I enjoyed this story.
See, now the thing is, it has, I think, just immediate appeal. It could use some fleshing out.
Really?
That's what I felt. Because when I address, like, some small, like, simple mistakes that get made here, aside from, like I said, some run-on sentences that cause you to get like, a little bit breathless if you're reading it aloud.
Which you were.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're not usually going to be reading it aloud, clearly, but I noticed this because it's something that I do all the time when I'm writing as well. It's just when you're stringing those thoughts together, you don't realize how badly you're torturing the punctuation.
Do you think that because you're writing a sex scene, you're more likely to do that?
And actually, because you're writing a sex scene, I think it's more... Yeah, it's more valid. There are going to be times where you are going to want to, like, kind of dribble on like that, but there are times when... it's going to be completely unnecessary and distracting. I mean, clearly.
I don't know,
there are a few times like that in the story.
Usually, at least reading it, or listening to you, nothing particularly jumped out at me in that regard. But no, I take your word for it.
Take my word for it. Well, maybe
I think disagree. Part of it could be a stylistic thing, and I feel that, there are some people that... I mean, there are different styles of writing, honestly. And I don't know, nothing crossed the line into, for me, that's annoying. And so I kind of feel that that's a valid style of writing, then. I know it's a weird, subjective tone, especially as an editor, to say that. But I try to allow a lot of leeway for writers to have their voices. And I feel you can be flexible with the language, and maybe that's partially as an anthropologist too, and I know for a fact how much the English language has changed and is changing and how flexible it is. So I'm willing to give a lot of leeway as long as it doesn't cross this line somewhere into, wow, that's really annoying to read now.
Well, I can say that it usually crosses the line for me is where you can see that there's an actual physical breakdown of the internal thought process. Like losing the tense structure is probably the worst offense there. Which I don't want to implicate anything specific in this story. I'm just saying again, that's definitely one of the things when I go back and I'm reading over a first draft that I just finished, I'm gonna find it's like finding the termites in the foundation of a house.
One thing I'll say to people, and maybe I've said it before on here, is when you're going over what you've written, read it out loud, because you have to slow down. For one, and my tendency when I'm reading stuff I've written is I correct the mistakes in my head without noticing them. I know how it's supposed to go.
Everybody does, yeah.
And reading it forces you to slow down, and you have to, think about it a little more. And I think you're a lot more likely to catch it. But you also wait, let me finish. You also kind of listen to the meter and the rhythm of the words you're writing. So a lot of times when I'm reading something from a new author, I'll read it out loud, and I'll realize, boy, we're using sentences. We've got like 6 sentences in a row here that are very short, and the effect is incredibly choppy when you read it out loud, like da 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 da, and it repetitive and choppy, and there's no flow. And so I was just going to add that reading it all, not only do you catch mistakes, but you kind of think how your sentences are constructed and if there's enough variation and rhythm in there. Yeah.
You realize you need some variance, just so it doesn't feel stale, essentially.
Right. That's good.
I'm with you.
Do you have other things you wanted to...
And there was also, I felt as if it ended just a little bit prematurely, in a way, and I
Really?
Well... It ends with an
invitation.
Yeah, well, because you have you have the long, nice extended sex scene, but the way they timed it with the cycles of the laundry, there was one cycle
which
left.
Was neat.
There was a cycle left. That was to dry the damn clothing. That's what I was. That's the only thing that I thought was.
So you are bothered that his
I was thinking like, I'm coming toward the end here, thinking, okay, so with these slabs, they throw these things in the dryer, and then but that's the only. So. Perhaps just extend it one more scene.
Maybe they hang it or something when they get home.
Yeah, well, he invites him back to his place, but he can't abandon his laundry. That's what I was thinking.
Can't abandon his laundry.
Oh, it's like little.
It's good that you're worried about these things in the porn story. Rough, anonymous.
I know.
Public sex. No, but dude, don't worry. I worry about all this kind of stuff too when I'm reading stories. Like, or there's even there's some commercial online where I'm sitting there like. You couldn't, it's like a car commercial. I'm like, oh, that'd be illegal. You couldn't park like that. This is what I worry about, when I'm watching commercials. So I totally understand.
But are we supposed to indulge the pedants?
Yeah, totally. No, I did kind of I think you bring up a really interesting point at the timing. There's a time constraint imposed on the action in the story.
I really like the structure.
By the doing of this laundry.
That's the one thing I really did like. Is I really like the structure that sets it up like that. And we have our laundry going here.
It's very clever.
He's pushed up against his laundry being. But one thing I did notice was at one point I think his laundry switched from being in the bottom to the top laundry. So they're little. Unless I'm going crazy,
and they weren't switches. So no.
But it was just a really clever kind of setup for a short, pulpy story. Right.
And it's a way of injecting this kind of time constraint into the story in a natural way.
I think that's probably the biggest problem of trying to write some kind of short, indulgent fantasy is having characters either meet and become comfortable with each other quickly, or have some kind of long history that can be quickly summarized and established.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's why you do a very good job, because you just it's not beyond, I think, believable.
Yeah.
That, two college kids see each other and hook up.
It's outrageous, but it's not beyond belief.
Like,
and that's
oh
an
my
important
goodness.
distinction.
I mean, yeah, so it's kind of what makes it just like a nice little indulgent fantasy.
Well, it's kind of, maybe that distinction too, I think we talked about this before, like, I will literally, like, I confess there are a lot of times when I don't read stories with dragons in them on So Furry. Because,
Why?
like, then there'll be, like, even anthro dragons or sometimes even horses, and, like, the guy will pull down his pants and he was like, a 4-foot cock.
No way.
And, right, yeah, and I'm sitting here like, close it, I move on. No, and I think maybe that's what it is for me. Maybe it's the difference between outrageous and beyond belief. Like, I am willing to, I can go up to, like, 10, 11 inches. It's crazy, but it's somewhat possible. But when it's like 3 feet, and then I start, and I get in the same problem you had. I start thinking about the physics.
You could never do the macro micro thing. You never do the macro thing.
No,
I don't get that either.
I start thinking about the physics of it, though. Like, okay, so where is that 3 feet? How is that 3 feet of cock going to go in? And I start worrying about these things, and that diminishes
It's the dick void.
my enjoyment of the story.
I think
There was one story I read years
the
ago.
furry
It was
dick
a
void was the
sci-fi.
inspiration for the CERN Super Collider.
Maybe one of our listeners remembers, but there was a story many years ago, free sci-fi story. The guy and his partner was a horse, and this is sci-fi in the future, and they were on a ship or something. But he had actually had surgeries done to him, so he could in about 15 minutes would kind of rearrange his insides would rearrange, so he could take his horse boyfriend.
What?
Yeah.
Gross.
I thought it was kind of cool. So I was able to go with that because there was a solution, and I wasn't like, where's it gonna go? See, now I knew.
See, I'd prefer
It's
to
good.
not
This is what happens when neurotic people read porn. We're like, okay, what are the socio-political, cultural, physics implications of said porn?
See, I thought this whole thing was supposed to be an escape, but you can't escape from it.
I can escape so far. I can't escape all the way. I can't get escape velocity.
You can't get past 3 feet.
I can't get past 3 feet. Can't do it. One of the little, I think, I'm glad you kind of mentioned the stuff starting out, or maybe some little pet peeves we have in writing, because this story does it, but it's not a problem, and I want to talk about why. So, something else that'll get me to stop reading a story on So Furry, other than 3 feet, is if it's every time you refer to your characters, it's the wolf, and the rabbit, and the wolf, and the rabbit, and the rabbit, and the rabbit, and the rabbit, the wolf, the wolf, the wolf. Sometimes I will stop because it's so impersonal that I can't get attached to the characters and what they're doing. So sometimes I stop reading the story because it's like, it's not people anymore. It's this thing called the wolf. And this thing called, it's this cock called the wolf and this butt called the rabbit. And that's kind of what they're reduced to. This one, even though that's all they're referred to, like, we never find their names, it's the lion and the squirrel, it fits the nature of the story.
Mm-hmm. Because it is an anonymous hookup.
It is, exactly.
Right.
And that's how they're thinking about each other. And maybe that's even, to an extent, how they're thinking about themselves in this situation.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because it's not about, well, let's say Mr. Squirrel, it's not about really he is, in this situation, he is the squirrel there to satisfy the lion. And that's as important as this moment is, for him. So
I thought he was just overwhelmed with being caught in his pants.
Yeah, well, it is overwhelming, but I think the impersonal nature kind of does that, and so in this case, sometimes I shut up, especially when they're trying to do, like, if you had a loving story set up, say, and then they go back to their, bedroom after the date or whatever, and then all you're referring to them when you're writing as is, the wolf and the bunny, then it's not working, because that isn't how you've been referring to them all throughout the rest of the story. And I think sometimes you've seen this before, where there's
Well,
sometimes a slip in writing style between the porn and non-porn parts of a story, where the writing style doesn't gel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean, but it's kind of hard to make that transition sometimes because, I mean, you want such explicitly different things when you're reading them, and it's kind of like it's one thing I like about this story was it absolutely makes no bones about itself from the beginning to end.
From the title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and we've read other stories where like okay they're good pulpy stories, but they also kind of like oh yeah they're a nice little tale too, and I think the best answer to trying to manage the transitions between those awkward different phases is just to get rid of all of them entirely and make it all pornographic.
I don't know. I disagree. There's stories I like.
Well, I'm just making
the
defense
story and the porn.
This is how I like it. Is what I'm saying.
I know.
I've read plenty Your Way, and I like Your Way too. This is.
Oh, I like Your Way too. So we can agree that we're likable.
Absolutely.
No, I agree, and there's definitely. I mean, that's one of the fun things about getting to do this show here is we do look at stories that some people might dismiss as that's just porn, and we talk about the things they play on and how they're important.
People like porn, though. That's the thing. Is that's just
absolutely.
porn. That's just porn. I don't know. People like porn. How are you supposed to not think about it?
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I don't know.
I was at this is kind of fun. A guy. I don't know if I give out his name. Maybe I won't right now. But a fellow fur who had his photo gallery premiere, his gallery premiere last weekend in Baltimore, and I went to that.
What?
And his photography exhibit was about furries.
That's cool.
Yeah, so we met him at Denver, in all places. Even though he lives out in Baltimore, we met at the convention in Denver. So he'd sent me this, hey, Skip, I'm doing this thing. Why don't you come by? So it was really cool, and it was a couple furries there. There were a couple people in suits there at the show, but it was mostly like. That's cool. Other kids and profs from the school. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of fun. But yeah, we were talking, and it was kind of a neat thing, but talking a little bit about, somebody asked him, how do you get into this? And explained a little. And then he said, well, what is, we talked about the popular images for a furry in the internet or in, magazine articles or whatever, where they're, a bunch of animal fuckers or whatever. And we talked about that a little bit, and I kind of said I honestly said to this guy, and the guy doing the photo exhibit actually started recording me with his camcorder while I was talking, but I went into full professor mode, and I said, it's important. I mean, sex is important to the furry community. It's not important to everybody, and I don't think it's the most important thing. But it's important to a lot of people.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
Anybody who tells you otherwise, I think they're trying to whitewash it or something. And I don't think it should be whitewashed. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong in it. And I don't think... No. I mean, obviously, you and I are here, so
it's my porn stash, basically.
Yeah. But, and I said, it's sexuality, sex is important in culture in general to a lot of people. So I don't really feel like we're particularly remarkable in that regard as a subculture.
That's why it's going to be popular.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Because sex sells.
Yeah.
Everybody's always known that. Yeah. And people always say, every generation has said, oh, wow, that generation after us is so remarkably more scandalously sexual than ours. Wow, we were already pretty, scandalously sexual. Ugh.
Oh, yeah.
I can't,
exactly.
I want to be,
well, they always, when they get old, they always, fantasize
be,
their own past, and then you start reading, historical documents and stuff, and you're like, wait a minute, that's not what you said, grandparents, or whatever. That's not how those 50s movies portrayed it. Yeah. Start getting into, wait a minute, you're just trying to control us by telling us what to do.
Well, I see how it goes.
Do you have a favorite line from this? I have a favorite line.
What was your favorite line from this?
It'd be basically the line saying, let's put them together, your head and mine.
Yeah, that's my favorite line too.
That cracked me up. When you read that and I was editing it, I was like, I laughed out loud. I was like, that is I loved it.
That's the thing I absolutely loved about this.
A nice little double entendre pun there. As, you know, as he shoves his cock in the squirrel's mouth, and that's great. I loved it.
I think
there were a bunch of moments actually in this story that really made me grin or laugh because there was some clever wordplay and phrasing there. So I appreciated that, and I was like, I know why too, because you appreciate.
He's one of those
clever wordplay.
Yeah, I know some people disagree with me. I know a lot of people disagree with me on this, but I think like the humor and the porn naturally go together.
I do too.
Like I think it's like a nice little relief in the whole middle of the process.
If you can't laugh at sex, what can you laugh at? I mean, really. It's pretty silly. It's pretty silly.
I just think everything's funny.
Oh, you know, sometimes too much.
Yeah.
We had a couple comments too.
We got a comment from someone who said that we ought to do like verbal tagging or something before stories. I'm for this. Yeah, I'm for this.
Well, I was thinking about it, and I did do a little warning in this story. I said, you know, there's gay fucking going on.
It's good.
But here's the thing. Cameo was, you know, very eloquent and makes the good points, but he was specifically talking about Foosball's story and said, you know, he wasn't prepared mentally for the violence in it. And, you know, was a little taken aback by it, and maybe we could warn our readers.
Some people are squeamish. You know?
And I understand that. I mean, I certainly am with things. You know, there's certain, like, horror. I mean, I will have nightmares, so I don't go see horror movies, usually. But here's my counterpoint to that. And here's why I'm not sure I want to do that. Because I have read things or listened to things or watched things that I wouldn't have watched or read or listened to if I had known more about them going into it, and I ended up liking them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my kind of second thought, you know, is saying like, yeah, you know, maybe, you know, if you knew ahead of time that, oh, this is going to be upsetting to me, you wouldn't read it. But maybe it's something that you might love. Maybe it will upset you, but you'll love it anyway. And so I kind of feel like if we
maybe this comes back to where you identify with the Dommy line and I identify with this subby squirrel, because I feel like if someone doesn't want to be subjected to stuff like that, it's reasonable enough. Let's warn them. Mm-hmm. And it seems to me just an eminently reasonable request, because I don't like violence sometimes either. Mm-hmm. Just say this story is going to be kind of violent. This story is going to involve sex. This story is going to involve drug use. I don't know. Whatever. Mm-hmm. Whatever. Again, these standards don't have to be universal, but I mean, if our community is saying, this is the kind of thing that might make some of us squeamish. But you guys can weigh in too. I mean,
let's try it. You know, we did. Like I said, I did it for this story. We can do it for the next one.
Sure.
But I'd love to know what you guys out there in Radioland think of it, and how much, or what should we do? I like Radioland.
It's not on the radio. It's not on the radio. It's in internet.
It could be. What? Shut up. No. Let's try it out and let us know what you think about that. Well, I'm going to keep them I think at least for right now, I want to keep them very general and specifically short. So I'll say there's, you know, gay sex here, or there's some violence.
Sure. And I think you should say in general it's an adult show.
Mm-hmm. It is an adult show, which is why I don't normally give warnings. I mean, I kind of expect you guys, you know, like
I feel because whatever's being read, the discussion is going to be raunchy.
Exactly. I mean, at this point, you know, yes, we don't always do porn, but we do a lot of porn and we do some violence and things. So, you know, it's pretty much an adult show, and you know, hopefully you're not listening to this with your, you know, 6-year-olds or whatever. Yeah. So,
Jerry Sandusky has it playing in the Penn State.
No.
We were Penn State.
Oh, don't do that. Anything else you want to say about this week's story?
It was really good. It has much utility.
It does have much utility. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it, and I like. So you kind of keep me honest if I get a little too cerebral here, and it is a good story. Yep. I enjoyed it.
I think it's a good comparison.
And you did a very nice reading of it.
Thank you. It's a good comparison to a utility baseball player because not be the outwardly overall best player, but in that role, that's exactly what you need.
Yeah. No, I was definitely much
high
utility.
Skills.
I approve.
High skills.
And you've picked out
player.
You've picked out our next week's story too. So.
Oh yeah, we're gonna be reading Nightlife by Mopar Skunk.
Wow. Okay, it's a good name,
Yeah.
like Chrysler parts, right?
Mm-hmm. I saw somebody.
I always liked that word, Mopar.
Mopar.
Yeah, when I was a kid.
What is that?
It's like Chrysler's like parts company.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Mopar.
like genuine Mopar, but like OEM Chrysler OEM parts are Mopar.
Oh my goodness, I'm
yeah.
sorry.
So maybe he's in the Chryslers or something, or Dodges.
I think that is part of it.
It's a good word though. I always like that.
You'll
word.
dig the story.
Mopar.
I think I've already read it, but I think you'll dig it.
I'm already sold based on the name alone. Already sold. So yeah, and I think we'll have that for you next week. And in the meantime, also Thanksgiving's this week.
Sure
so
is.
do you have anything to be thankful for?
My friendship with you, Skip. Thank you.
Wow, that's sweet.
And
but there is a little bit of brown on your nose.
And the listeners on the book club. I don't know.
Wow. He's all blushing.
And also, I'm thankful for God's eternal grace.
Are you thankful for your H&M underwear? Because I am. Oh, no.
Skip.
No. I'm thankful for you too and our listeners. I'm thankful for my bunny.
Oh, that's awesome.
So our happy Thanksgiving to you, and happy Evacuation Day.
Oh, you saw that sketch?
I did.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I think that's good. From now on, I'm referring to Black Friday as Evacuation Day. Yeah. So yes, if you didn't catch the Daily Show, Evacuation Day, Friday after, and that is the anniversary of when the British troops who had occupied New York during the Revolutionary War, New York City, evacuated the city after the conclusion of the war.
Happy
Thanksgiving,
catching on.
Happy Evacuation Day. Pretty good.
I wouldn't give it much.
We mentioned it on our show.
A handful of years.
That's
a handful of years of any kind of relevance.
Oh. But she said one of the challenges or one of the ways you celebrate it is pole climbing contests. I think furries could get behind that.
You're right. Maybe I can't.
Furries could get behind that.
I could be sold. Yeah.
Yeah. Pole climbing contest. All right. Evacuation Day party at my house. All right.
Like a polecat climbing contest.
Oh. And the skunks again. Mopar, better watch out.
So I'm the one at the Sam's Club hauling away
skunks are hot.
The value-sized cans of tomato paste.
And with that, folks, how can you end with anything better than that? So happy Thanksgiving, happy Evacuation Day, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
Ciao, everybody. Thanks for listening.